The grainy YouTube video flickered on the laptop screen. Two kids, no older than 10, were giggling nervously in front of a closet. They claimed it was haunted. One of them flung open the door, revealing nothing. Their laughter was infectious, but something about their eyes betrayed a real fear. It reminded me of my own childhood, of our old house, and the closet at the end of the hall. The hallway was always dimly lit, even in the daytime. The single bulb in the ceiling seemed to absorb more light than it cast. It gave the hallway a perpetual twilight feel, perfect for our games of shadow tag. My brother, ever the showman, would contort his body into grotesque shapes against the wall, his laughter echoing in the stillness. At the very end of the hallway, almost swallowed by the shadows, was the door to the guest bedroom. It was always kept closed, the paint peeling slightly around the edges. But it was the closet inside that held our attention. It wasn't a walk-in, more of a shallow recess with two wooden doors. One of the doors was missing, revealing a single shelf holding a pair of dusty wing-tipped shoes. We never spoke about the shoes. They were just there, like a permanent fixture. Our game of shadow tag would often lead us to that door. We'd pause, panting with exertion and laughter, our eyes drawn to the empty space within. Sometimes in the half-light, the shoes seemed to move, the leather creaking softly. It was probably just the old house settling, but it always sent shivers down our spines. One hot summer afternoon, with the sun casting long shadows across the hallway, we found ourselves at the closet door again. The air was thick with the smell of dust and something else, something faintly sweet and metallic. We stood there, mesmerized by the play of light and shadow within the closet. "I dare you," my brother whispered, his voice barely audible above the pounding of my heart. "I dare you to touch them." He pointed a trembling finger at the wing-tipped shoes. I knew I shouldn't. It felt wrong, like we were crossing some invisible line. But the dare hung in the air between us, heavy with unspoken fear and childish bravado. I took a deep breath and stepped into the closet. The air grew instantly colder, raising goosebumps on my arms. I reached out a hand, my fingers brushing against the cool, dry leather of the shoe. A blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, echoing through the house. It took me a moment to realize the scream was my own. I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet, and landed hard on the hallway floor. My brother stood frozen, his eyes wide with terror. Then, chaos erupted. Our parents came rushing in, their faces etched with concern. They bombarded us with questions, but all I could do was point a shaking finger at the closet. "The shoes," I stammered, my voice trembling. "They moved." My parents exchanged a look, a mixture of confusion and something else that I couldn't quite place. My father, ever the pragmatist, went into the closet to investigate. He emerged a few minutes later, dusting off his hands. "There's nothing there," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Just a couple of old shoes." But his eyes held a flicker of something else, something that belied his calm facade. That night, as I lay in bed, my mind racing, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. The events of the day replayed in my mind, each detail amplified by the darkness. And then I remembered something I had overheard my parents whispering about a few weeks earlier. They were talking about the history of our house. It had been built in the 1920s, and according to local law, it had once been the home of a wealthy businessman who had mysteriously disappeared. His disappearance had never been solved, and some people whispered that his spirit still lingered within the walls. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding in my chest. Could it be true? Was our house really haunted? And were the wing-tipped shoes in the closet somehow connected to the missing businessman? I didn't know the answers, but one thing was certain. I was never going near that closet again. The next day, I told my brother about what I had overheard. To my surprise, he didn't laugh. He listened intently, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. When I was finished, he nodded slowly. "I believe you," he said. "I felt it too. Something isn't right about that closet." From that day forward, our games of shadow tag took on a whole new meaning. We no longer laughed and joked as we played. Instead, we moved with a sense of trepidation, our eyes constantly scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. The hallway, once a place of childish games and laughter, had become a source of fear and unease. The wing-tipped shoes, once just a curious oddity, were now a tangible reminder of the house's dark past. We moved out of that house a few years later, but the memories of that summer and the haunting presence in the closet stayed with us. To this day, I can't look at a pair of wing-tipped shoes without feeling a shiver run down my spine, a visceral reminder of the time we encountered the unexplained in the haunted hallways of our childhood home.